Bonjour, Hillsborough, and of course, Senor Michael Howard, who gets his own introduction. Welcome to It's 5:30 everywhere. It's
5:30.
It's 5:30, but it's Wednesday, which is important. I'm sure that means something to somebody somewhere.
It's hump day.
No matter what time it is, no matter what day it is, you're probably hungry right about now. So let me go ahead and tell you. And Antonia's right there on the corner. It's available for you to go on and eat inside if you want. Ain't that fancy. But they got half price bottles of wine as well as beef and sausage manicotti today. But check out what Radius is cooking up. They've got tonight's family meal is garlic buttered stuffed chicken. Oh, my thing just timed out. Bok choy, herbed wild rice, and strawberry butter cake with whipped cream topping. That serves 4, and it's available at Radius. Now you call them and you can come pick it up. But guess what? You're probably also thirsty. This is our special guest this evening, Mr. Cosby, who will be joining us in just a second, likes to drink rum. We thought we'd give him a little something to mix his rum with. Take it away, Lana.
So the ever popular summer mojito. It's mojito season. So mint is fresh in our garden, so we picked some of that. And that's basically what we're going to do. So go out in your yard, pick the mint. Hopefully you have it in a place where the dogs can't also get to it, because that would suck. So you take the mint, you put it in your mixing cup. I cut just one whole lime, and I cut that into quarters, and I put that also in the mixing cup. And for mojito, you want to muddle. So this is a definite muddle. If you don't want to muddle and you just want to add juice, that's okay too. Sometimes that works. But for muddling, you want to just push down and get all the juice out of the limes. And at the same time, you're releasing the oils from the mint. So between the limes and the mint, it's going to be delicious. So that's that. So I muddle the limes and the mint. And today's mojito, we're going to put a little bit of mango nectar in it that we got from the little market down the road. I'm going to put 2 ounces of that in there. And then rum, just for you, Sean. You can use any rum you want. You can use dark rum, light rum, spiced rum. I don't care. We have Bacardi on hand, so that's what we're going to use. So 2 full ounces, as you all know. And then ice. So I'm going to put ice in the shaker. This is for Meg Poe. That's it. So I'm going to do that. And I'm just going to pour this back into the glass that I used to shake it in, just because I feel like it. But you could technically probably put it into a Collins glass, tall, skinny one. I don't see one handy, but you could do that. And then you top it off with more ice. And then fresh soda or Sprite, whatever you have.
She's coming right back.
I promise.
She's coming right back.
I am. There you go. That's it. Mango mojito. And you're going to want to drink that with a straw. Oh my God. If that doesn't scream summer, I don't know what does.
Man, you know what that screams? That screams Mr. Cosby's going to love it. Hey, and speaking of, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Mr. Sean Cosby.
Well, hello.
We can't hear you.
Wait a minute.
There you go.
All right, can you hear me?
What's shaking, senor?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Greetings and salutations. Oh my God, I need to shave. But anyway, I got a Red Fox Fred Sanford thing going on. You big dummy. How are you guys doing?
Very good. How are you?
Man, having fun. As you do.
It's been a crazy week no matter where you live. And speaking of where you live, by the way, you're pretty much a regular here because you've come down to every Noir at the bar that we've had, and then some. But you don't live out here. Tell folks that aren't familiar with you already. Where are you at?
I am in the lowlands of Virginia near Chesapeake Bay, about 40 miles from Norfolk, or if you're a local, Norfolk, and about 50 miles from the state capital, also known as the Hall of the Participation Trophies. So
that's I know what that means. That means Confederate cosplay.
Yes. For anyone who's not aware, there's a big street in Richmond called Monument Avenue, which has got just tons and tons of statues to traitors. But I digress.
Maybe not for much longer.
Cross our fingers on that one.
They took the orange fella's military away, so who knows? Maybe we can get some statues down after all. Hey, so how long of a drive is it from out there to here? When you make the drive, what's that commute look like?
When I first started coming down, the first time you invited me, the first time we met, I took my time, so it's about 2.5 hours. Now I can make it an hour and 40 minutes. So
watch a couple of Burt Reynolds car movies and then get your ass on the road.
Oh yeah, man! I got the soundtrack to White Lightning playing on the Spotify when I come down there. So, you know.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that first time because we got together because we were both in an issue of Thug Lit magazine. We were in Thug Lit number 10, and both of us were in there. And I saw in the about the author, it said you live just down the road. So when we were doing a Noir bar, I thought you'd be great to get in. And we've just been making wonderful music ever since. What was that 2015?
Yeah, 2015, and I tell you, it was funny because. I tell anybody that listens that you were the first person in the whole crime writing community who kind of put a hand out and said, "Hey, welcome aboard." And it's been one of the best decisions I ever made because I was very close to not coming down there. I was like, I don't know this guy. We've never met, and so. He just reached out of nowhere, and I didn't know if it's going to end up being like a deliverance thing and pedal faster. You hear banjos, but
That's the
I'm so glad that I did decide to come down because I stated without any equivocation, you and Lana become some of my best friends, and so I truly appreciate the offer. And we have had very, very interesting adventures together, the two of us. So.
Yep. Oh yeah, it's been a blast. We always look forward to having you out. And the last time you came up, you had My Darkest Prayer had recently come out, and we've been waiting to hear some new developments about Blacktop Wasteland, which is coming out in July. Tell everybody about Blacktop Wasteland and what your journey, what your experience with that's been so far.
Okay, so. I wrote My Darkest Prayer in 16, and it got rejected a bunch, and it finally got picked up, and it got picked up a little bit by a company called Intrigue Publishing out of Maryland a little bit before BouchCon 2018. So I decided to scrape my pennies together and get on a single prop plane. No lie, that's true. Single prop plane out of Richmond to Charlottesville, and from Charlottesville to go to St. Petersburg, Florida. And while I was down there, Mr. Pruitt, my friend, my compadre, my homeboy, got me on a panel about Southern crime fiction. And in that panel was an agent who, after the panel was over, and we had a lot of fun with that panel. We did we had some interesting conversations in that panel. The agent said, "Hey, I like what you were talking about. I like the way you talked about it. Do you have anything you're working on?" And I just happened to have a book called Blacktop Wasteland, which was based in part around a short story that was published in the last issue of Thug Lit. So I went home, and the guy gave me his card, and I didn't call him for 2 weeks because I'd had a bad experience with another agent. Nope. I shouldn't say bad experience. It didn't work out. I'll say that. And so I kind of just didn't pay any attention to it. I was like, whatever. And so my wife was like, "Hey, did you send that guy your book?" And I was like, "No, it's nothing going to happen. It's whatever. I'm not worried about it." So she hounded me to send the guy the book. I sent it to him. He liked it. That was the fall of 2018. He took me on as a client in December of 2018. And then in February of 2019, FlatIron Books, which is a division of Macmillan Books, they bought it. They bought actually a 2-book deal. And it was fun, man. It was like, wow, this is cool. And then around the middle of last year, things started happening with it. There seemed to be like a little bit of momentum. It was like a train going uphill, and it started to crest. And I started to get like a bunch of crazy blurbs for it, a bunch of crazy like interest in it.
Blurbs from like Dennis Lehane, Walter Mosley. I mean, these are some big ones.
yeah, like people that I have grown up admiring, people who have patterned my life after, people who are just some of the greatest writers, not just crime writers, but some of the greatest writers I've ever experienced. And so it was just an overwhelming experience. And so as the year went on, things just started snowballing with it, man. And just late last year, early this year, we sold the film rights for Blacktop Wasteland to a company called Picture Start, which is composed of some folks. They used to work at Lionsgate Pictures. There are some names attached to it. Mahershala Ali and John David Washington are possibly attached to it, but that's still kind of in the nether region. But it did sell. We did sell the film rights for it, and in the last few months, just a lot of crazy blankety blank stuff has been happening with it. It's on a lot of best of summer, most anticipated lists. It just got mentioned in the New York Post. I'm doing a Facebook Live with Walter Mosley the day after it comes out.
That's huge.
And I gotta say,
your face, your big old face was on the cover of Brooklyn magazine a couple weeks ago. Big old.
Yeah. As my mama liked to say, I don't have a big head. I got a lot on my mind. And so, yeah, that's the poor people. When they put that on there, I don't think they knew what they were getting, because this thing right here got its own gravity. So, but yeah, it's just, I tell people all the time, I am a 46-year-old college dropout who grew up in a trailer in the middle of nowhere, 15 miles from Chesapeake Bay, grew up doing like hard labor. My uncles were tough dudes that worked tough jobs. And so for all this to be happening, if it can happen to me, it can literally happen to anybody. I mean that. It can happen to anyone.
You work for it, Sean. You work for it. You put a lot into it. You put your heart into it. You can tell. Every time I see you speak, every time I see you come at one of these North Bar events, you almost always, close. He comes in a close second, but you're almost always crowd favorite. It's true. You know what you're doing. So your book you said it's gaining momentum, and you sold the film rights. Has it been released?
It will be released July 14th.
Okay.
And it'll be released in hardcover, ebook. There's an audiobook, and the guy who narrated the audiobook used to be on the Young and the Restless. I wish my grandmother was alive, because she would just be tickled pink. That was her favorite show. She had a crush on Victor Newman. Anybody that's born in the 70s and grew up in the 80s and you hung out with your grandmother, they know who Victor Newman is. And so it's been exciting, man. They did the company did they did a giveaway for the book. And so it's been getting a lot of like good advanced reviews, people from Goodreads, people on, I got some reviews. I got a good review in Publishers Weekly. Booklist gave it a star review. We just found out the Library Journal gave it a star review. So it's just, I'll probably never write anything that good again, but I'm gonna ride it out with the last. So
how is this release compared to the other one pre-pandemic? How is the pandemic affecting your release and everything that goes around that?
It's interesting because my first book, Darkest Prayer, was with an independent publisher, and they're great people. They're really a really professional independent publisher. They don't lie to you. You know what you're getting with them, and they're really just a really great group. But they're limited in what, as all independent publishers are, and what they can do. With the pandemic, I was kind of concerned. Well, I was like, that was good while it lasted. And, I was thinking, the book, there's nothing they can do. But they have, FlatIron has organized like a whole bunch of stuff. Like I'm doing like a virtual book tour every other day in June, starting next week. I'm going to be doing a podcast or a Zoom interview. I've been interviewed by a bunch of different online resource crime reads, the Writer's Bone podcast. I'm going to do something with them. There's different reviews that are going to be out in pieces in like the Slate and in the Atlantic. And so I think the big difference is because FlatIron is a part of Macmillan and because they're one of the quote unquote big five, there's a lot more infrastructure that they have to get behind the book if they choose to. Whereas and Eric can attest to this, whereas when you were an independent publisher, you're doing a lot of legwork, and that's not a knock against independent publishers. It's just the nature of the game. And, and they help you as much as they can, but you do a lot of the legwork. Me and Eric have logged a lot of miles supporting Darkest Prayer and Townies and hashtag and Dirtbags. And so when you are with an independent publisher, it's a lot on you. A lot of the onus is on you as the writer. When you get with somebody who has a little more oomph, a little more, as the kids say, a little more stroke, they're doing a lot more for you. I mean, of course, you hope the book is good and you hope that the book is well written, but there is a lot more flexibility as far as promotion goes. So,
well, I can tell you, I've read the book, Blacktop Wasteland. I've read it. I've even gotten a sneak peek at your next book that hasn't even gone up the channels yet. So, yeah, it's got the goods. You and me, I think what stuck out the most is going back to like Thuglit number 10 and pretty much all your other stuff. I think I've read everything. We like to cover the same kind of themes. We cover the South in all its beauty and ugliness, revenge, violence, justice. All those things seem to have made it in the news, over the last week.
Yeah.
How do you think, like with the literature that you write, how has your worldview and your expression of it, do you think that this is going to affect anything over, how you express yourself in literature, the things from the past week?
It's funny because the things from the past week, I was already writing about them when I wrote Blacktop Wasteland because they keep happening. They keep happening again and again. And so there's a line in Blacktop Wasteland where the main character, Beauregard Bug Montage, is talking to his son, Javon, and he tells him, being a black man in America is living with somebody else's low expectations on your back every goddamn day. I wrote that before the murder of George Floyd. I wrote that before the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. I wrote that before the murder of Breonna Taylor. Because that experience is cyclical, unfortunately. And it happens again and again. And somebody writing a book right now, by the time they publish it, if they're writing about the theme that you and I cover, will probably be writing about something that has happened that they don't even know about. And I think as writers from the South, we have a unique perspective on race relations and the legacy of slavery and the legacy of the Confederacy and the legacy of America and how the American dream is deferred for a lot of people. And I think crime writing is one of the ways, it's one of the windows into the underbelly of the American dream, what is the American nightmare for a lot of people. Because the one thing that everybody understands is pain. And most people commit crimes because they're hurting. I really believe that. I truly believe that. Even most despicable crimes, there's a pain, there's a brokenness in people. That being said, I also feel like the South has this, again, unique perspective on race relations. I often say that you and I, growing up in the South, sometimes have more in common than I do with somebody who grew up in the Bronx. You know what honeysuckle is. You know what an outhouse is. If I say cornbread and crackling, you know what I'm talking about. And so there's a shared camaraderie in the South that some of our neighbors and some of the people that we know don't want to acknowledge, but it's there. We can't escape it. And so when I write, I try to write about that in an interesting way.
I think another big question a lot of people have been arguing over and over the past week is, does violence actually solve anything? What do you say?
I don't think violence is always the answer, but it's always an option. Here's the thing. Our nation was founded in violence. The Boston Tea Party was a riot. And the first person to die in the Revolutionary War was Crispus Attucks, a black man. I think those two things are inextricably tied together. I think violence is the cudgel that goes with the hand of friendship and freedom. I think you have to have it. Here's the thing. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 was in legislature for a long, long time. And then they had the riots. And a month later, it passed. I'm not saying violence is the only way, but sometimes violence is the only thing some people understand. You know, not to get too political about the whole thing, but people like Colin Kaepernick were kneeling during the national anthem as a silent form of protest. And that was unacceptable to some people. There were people who protested in the middle of the street. That's unacceptable to some people. There were people who protested online, and that was unacceptable to some people. If you keep telling me over and over again that my silent, peaceful protest is unacceptable, then there's nothing left but for me to scream. There's nothing left but for me to act out. And make no mistake, the riots and the protests are different from the looting. The looting is one thing. There are people who are looting who have nothing to do with the protest. But the pain and the agony that people are expressing, both black, white, and across the spectrum, during these protests is real. And because people wouldn't listen to the peaceful protests, they're forced to deal with this kind of protest.
I who was it? I talked to another friend of ours the other day, and he said, you know, certain towns had peaceful demonstrations, and other towns had riots. There were protests and there were riots. There were totally different entities. And the protest in Raleigh turned into a riot. And he attributes that to the fact that the police showed up in riot. They came prepared for that fight. There wasn't the fight that was supposed to be there. It was supposed to be a protest, and it was a protest. And then it turned into a riot.
Yeah, I think if you and I say that we're going to meet behind Yonder and talk about our issues at 6 o'clock, and I show up with a baseball bat, then I'm looking for a fight.
Exactly.
You know, and so I think, I talk about, again, going back to writing, I write about crime because I believe that crime is sometimes an avenue that people in poverty feel like they have to take. And there's a difference between being poor and black and being poor and white. Poor is seen by some people as your fault, that your poverty is an issue that is somehow your fault. And a lot of times it isn't. And so I write about crime because I understand where those characters, both white and black, are coming from. I don't write a lot about police officers, not out of any animosity toward the police, but I just don't understand their mentality sometimes. You know, I grew up in a town where one of the chief deputies was a kid that I went to school with, you know, who started school with my brother and graduated with me. He was 21 when he graduated. And I was supposed to trust my life to him. And so I don't understand that mindset all the time. Don't get me wrong. I know some cops. I got some friends that are cops. There's a great writer who used to be a police officer named Mark Bergen, who I've become very good friends with. But I think the problem is the police in a lot of towns in America have a warrior mentality as opposed to a community mentality. I truly believe that. And I think the towns where the police strive to be a part of the community don't have as much violence. The towns where the police try to make sure that they're the biggest gang on the street, you know, like Bob Dylan said, you got a lot of knives and forks, you're going to have to cut something. So.
Yeah, we got to attend the Durham protest. I've done a couple of them over the last few days, but we went to the big one on Monday, and yeah, the cops hung back. You know, earlier that day, the mayor got involved. So, you know, it's quite different than what went down in Raleigh, where they just got people out with riot gear and they're ready to show off the new toys. You know, so it was something quite different. Hey, what do you think? Can the scales be reset, or you think everything's too far gone? We've had, 400 years of one person oppressing another. Not to mention the last 100 years. The last 5 years. Do you think things can be reset, or are the scales too far gone?
I think I'm a little bit naive. I don't think naive, but I'm hopeful. I think I'm a little bit more optimistic than some people. I think that the scales can be reset. I think that really, I still believe in the promise of America. You know, my family goes back 6 generations in my hometown. I have family that served in the military. My niece right now is a member of the United States Navy. My fathers and my uncles and my mothers and my aunts have worked hard. Yeah, I got some cousins that if you want to get some moonshine, they're the ones that you need to call.
Those are the ones we read about.
Yeah, but for the most part, most of my family members, my friends, they try to work. They try to be a part of America, and I do think that our current El Presidente, I think it's a tipping point. You know, I think that you have to go through this so that you see how bad things can get, so that you can walk back from the edge a little bit. I think there are a lot of people like that had this narrative like, well, he's just as bad as pantsuits, you know, so it doesn't matter. And I think a lot of people realize, oh no, we were wrong. That was a terrible miscalculation. But I think it's necessary. You know, I think it's cauterizing something in the American psyche. I think we can make that transition to a different, better society. But it's almost like when you get gangrene on your foot or your leg and you got to cut out all that rotted flesh. This is us cutting out the rotted flesh. This is us amputating that gangrenous limb, and it hurts. It hurts like hell, but eventually it will heal. It may not. You and I may not be around to see it, but I think the seeds of it are being planted now. I hope, you know. But I believed in Santa Claus till I was 14. So,
spoiler alert.
Hey, I guess that imagery there is a good segue to our next question. But hey, you still got, aside from being the world celebrated author you're about to be, and then not to mention all the other stuff that's been going on, we're still in a pandemic, and you still have a day job. Tell everybody what you do for the day job and how the pandemic's affected that.
Well, my wife owns a funeral home, and then I'm the boy Friday that runs around and does all the stuff that she doesn't do, which isn't much. She does a lot. But yeah, we're currently in a pandemic. Luckily, we were already, because of the nature of our job, we had a lot of PPE. We had a lot of, sanitizing equipment. We already were cleaning a lot because of being in a funeral home. We already protect ourselves a lot because we're working in a funeral home. But it has changed our job. I mean, funerals are, especially, now this is why I'm gonna go back to being a Southerner. If you're from the South and somebody has a funeral, that's an all-day job. That's an event. You got a big church. If you got a big family, it's an outpouring of grief that takes a lot of hours and a lot of space. And with the pandemic, we've had to adjust that. We've had a lot of what we call graveside services, where it's only the immediate family, and there's only 10 of them. A part of our new uniform is wearing masks. We've got monogram cloth masks now, which I think it looks badass. I like it, but but yeah, it has changed the way we do our job, because all jokes aside, a part of this job, and I'm in awe of my wife when I watch her do this, is comforting the bereaved, is being there for them. And a part of being there for them sometimes is giving them a hug, a pat on the back, putting your arm around them, getting close to them, and then letting them know that somebody cares. And it's difficult now because you really can't do that. And I think it is definitely stressful on her that she can't be that way, because she is a very empathetic person. You don't go into this line of work without a lot of empathy, without a lot of concern about your fellow man. And so for me, like I said, I'm the boy Friday. I watch the hearse and the cars, and I do the removals. I'm not as much into the actual ceremony and funerals, but I see what she's going through and what her colleagues are going through. And so it's difficult. It's very difficult. I mean, it's I think funeral business and morticians are sometimes grouped in that same negative stereotype with car salesmen and lawyers. But from what I've seen and what I've experienced, because I didn't grow up in this, she did, it's a calling. I always tell her, she's a scientist and an artist. And I think I need to add another caveat to that. She's a scientist and artist, and she's a counselor. And it has changed the way she does her job.
Yeah, she's got to be a patient woman. If she's, yeah. I hang out with you guys for a couple of days, once up in Matthews, and we went on a little drive. We went out to get something to eat. Y'all showed me around, and one of my favorite things was everywhere we went, y'all would remember this place because you had picked up a body there. And if I remember correctly, also on your first date. Your first date.
Yeah.
I got that right? Your first date was interrupted because she got a call and y'all had to go pick up a body together.
So I'll tell you the story of that real quick. So we're going on our first official date. A mutual friend introduced us. We talked on the phone a lot. We really seemed to have a good conversation. I was a bit of a Lothario back then. And so I decided that I was going to stop seeing these 3 other people that I was seeing, and I wanted to see her. And so we set up the date. We went out to dinner. We sat down at dinner. We got the appetizers, and she got a phone call. And she kind of looked concerned, and I was like, what's wrong? I thought something happened, someone that she knew. And she's like, I have to go. I'm on a call. I have to go on a call. And I was like, oh. She's like, can we reschedule? And I was like, well, do you need some help? And she was like, you want to go? I don't want to go, but I mean, I'll help you. I don't want you to go by yourself. And so we ended up going, and our first call was a homicide. So, and we went and we picked up the body, and I saw the body. That was horrible. And and we took it back to the funeral home, and she proceeded to do what she does. And we ended up spending like the entire 9 hours together. And I remember at the end of that date, I was going home, and she said, well, I guess you'll never want to see me again. And I said, hey, we just spent 9 hours together. We didn't get arguing. I enjoy your company. Conversation never lagged. I said, if nothing else, we're going to be friends because I really like being around you. And 3 years later, we were married. So,
yeah, it wasn't until our third date that Lana and I moved to Body, but that's a whole other story. You guys are wallet. So where can people find out more stuff about you if they're looking for? I know we kept you on longer than I told you I was going to keep you, but where can people find more about you? Where can people talk to you?
You can go on the Facebook and look up S.A. Cosby author. I got an author's page. You can find me on Twitter. My handle is don't laugh. My handle is BlackLionKing73. I'm in the process of finally getting a website. I didn't think I needed one for the longest time, but apparently I do. But yeah, Facebook and Twitter. Don't go on Instagram because there's nothing but gym shots. It's just me lifting weights, so you don't want to see that.
Ladies, that's where you find that.
I get a lot of follows from bears, so
yeah,
I'm flattered. But I wanted to say real quick before we go, there are certain people that you meet in life that as soon as you meet them that you're probably going to end up in a nursing home together talking about the good old days. And Eric Pruitt is one of those people.
Oh, hell yeah.
And I love him to death. If anybody that's listening to this, there are very few people who can write about the South and about nasty characters in a way that makes you care about them like Eric Pruitt. Please search out his work, please, because it's you don't
very much.
If you haven't read it, you don't know what you're missing.
Thank you very much, man. I can't wait to Bubba Hotep that funeral home with you, dude. That'll be.
I can't wait to see you guys again, man.
Yeah, we'll as soon as it's open. If they hadn't already thrown you back on that worldwide book tour, we'll snatch you up and get you in here partying.
You know it. I'll be there, man.
Thank you very much, man.
Not a problem.
You be careful and tell Kim we said hello.
You guys be safe. I love you guys. See you later.
Love you too, Sean.
Love you, brother.
Bye.
Yep. So you can find Sean's stuff everywhere. Just look up Sean S.A. Cosby. His first book, My Darkest Prayer, is available just about everywhere. But Blacktop Wasteland is where he is going to stick that size 13 boot right up there. So be on the lookout for that. Hey, while you're thinking about buying stuff, tell him.
No, don't make me tell him.
Yeah, tomorrow, Thursday, we're going to be selling DIY beer and wine kits out of this shop right here. And you ever seen these? Buzz balls, they're like little cocktails that you can carry with you. They're good. We had chocolate and pineapple today. DIY beer and wine kits. They're going on sale tomorrow. We're going to be selling them from 3 to 7 o'clock in here, right in here. So y'all come in here and hang out. Yep, that means like in the middle of our broadcast from 5:30 to 6, you may pop in with our very special guest, DJ and Larry. Woo-hoo! So y'all come stick around. Y'all hang out with us tomorrow online, or if you're feeling kind of froggy, come on out and buy some stuff from us. And guess what? We're going to be very safe. Y'all going to come out and buy stuff. Be sure, wear a mask, wash your hands, and stay home if you're sick or from Alamance County. Haha. We'll see y'all tomorrow at 5:30. Thank y'all very much. Y'all be careful.